Welcome back to Jack of All Trades 505. This is your host Joseph. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. This project was kind of an impromptu project just because I wasn't planning on doing another water bottle, but I recently lost my other water bottle and needed to replace it. And of course, I can't just walk around with a plain water bottle, so I decided to go ahead and adorn this one. Now, I am using a different paint than I normally use. This paint that I'm using is actually the same paint that we use at school for the automotive collision repair program that I'm in. There is a section on custom automotive paint, and in that class we actually use the straight urethane toner with a base coat stabilizer to that we use as a reducer. Now, using the base coat stabilizer allows you to reduce the toner and to the consistency thin enough to allow it to pass through an airbrush. The main difference is that unlike the urethane reducer, it does not activate the paint. So you can actually store this paint and use it for longer periods. So this is a Sherwin Williams product. U7282 is the white. U7218 is black. I did not actually use any black for this painting. The entire painting, any black that you see is the black substrate, which is a black powder coated Zulu water bottle. I did go ahead and paint a little bit of black over the Zulu logo that was painted on the water bottle. I did go ahead and cover that up with black paint. Other than that, everything else that you see on this painting, all the darks were created, the dark shadows, and that were created by maintaining the black of the substrate. Here I am going ahead and tracing out the major landmarks using a white carbon paper and stylus. The carbon paper set that I bought off of Amazon included both white and black carbon paper. Some people call the white carbon paper Sorel paper. With tracing out or mapping out your image, really just depends on how much information you decide to include in when mapping out your image. You can add as many lines or as few lines as you want. Now, the more information you add, the more lines you add, the more you have to try to keep track of. So keep that in mind. Now, this Sorel pencil on a hard surface can interact with your paint, but if you erase as you go, because as you'll notice that the main way that I'm able to achieve certain lines and shades is by actually erasing the white paint back using a Staedtler Mars razor pencil eraser, which is the blue eraser that you see with the little bristles, the dark blue eraser with bristles. There's also a Lerato Rafix 444, which is an ultra aggressive pencil eraser that I use. I will also use a scalpel or a X-Acto knife to scratch away fine details and try to get, but again, you have to be careful, especially on a hard substrate. If you scratch too heavily, you will scratch all the way through to bare metal, so be careful of that. Here you'll see that I do implement the use of freehand shields. I will use various different shields to achieve the shape that I'm looking for, to protect for a particular shape, usually to block off and protect while I shade in an area. And then again, just using you know, trigger control to control the amount of tone, I guess, that I'm laying down. It's not really color, since I am painting in black and white. Black and white are not really colors, they're tonal values. So here you'll see that even though the white of her face right now may look extremely white, later on you'll notice that as I start to tone in the rest of the face and the hair and the other areas, that that white is not nearly as dark as it first appears. The reason that it seems so bright right now is because it is primarily surrounded by black. And so as we go, you'll notice that it is not nearly as dark in value as it first appears. So just keep that in mind. But again, try not to spray too heavily. You can always increase the amount of saturation, go in and spray more paint in an area if it's not dark enough, or it's not saturated enough, should I say. Again, I have to be careful. I'm learning that darkness and lightness, saturation and desaturation, I guess, these are different ways of looking at value and color. And with the black and white painting, it's just value. So again here, with subtractive airbrushing, what you will do is you will spray in an area to lay down kind of a base tone, and then you'll go in with an eraser and start to erase away just the details that you want. So sometimes you may even erase more than you initially intended, because you can always dust over what you had just erased, and again lighten it up, bring back that value. I will tell you that spraying white on black is a little bit different than say spraying black on white, where you're usually going for the darkest tones and gradually bringing forward your midtones and trying to preserve the white of your substrate for your highlights. And here it's the exact opposite. So again, your darkest areas, you try not to spray in any paint whatsoever, and your highlights, just spraying them in as brightly as you can, and toning them down from there, or building your tonal values up to pure white. And I don't think any part of this painting actually achieves pure white. So again, I do like painting white on a black background. Typically this can be a bit of a challenge, because white is notorious for being thicker of a pigment than any other color pigment, and so it can tend to be a little bit more difficult to spray. You actually have to usually heavily reduce your mixture when you're spraying through an airbrush. Now I am using an Iwata HP-CS, which is the 0.35 millimeter, and so this is a slightly larger needle configuration, and but still it is capable of very, very fine detail. The paint that that I'm using is a urethane based toner that while it is less I guess, likely to tip dry. You still have to deal with tip dry, even with urethane paints. Unfortunately, tip dry is just the nature of the beast when dealing with airbrushing. But unlike water-based paints, I do notice that there's far less tip dry uh, than with, like I said, traditional water-based paints. So really, like I said, and the nice thing is, especially if you're dealing with automotive paint, if you've already painted the substrate with a particular brand of paint, say, in this case, Sherwin Williams Ultra 7000, if you're able to take that same toner and paint directly over it, you're less likely to have any type of chemical reaction between your two base materials. I did find that I recently had a project that I had a water-based base coat or sealer, and then I used a water-based clear as a wet bed for a metal flake. Now, when I went to go lay down my urethane clear, I got wrinkling because of the incompatibility of the two products. So the one thing I would suggest is that if you are going to use a particular product line, use it all the way from the sealer all the way through to the clear, if possible. Now, with the water-based paints, give them a few extra days to cure before clear coating. Unlike the urethane paints that you're supposed to clear coat them within a certain amount of time, it's actually about 7 days. They need to be clear coated, or else you need to actually sand the paint and shoot it, because you are then running the risk of chemical cohesion problems. So basically, the clear coat will not adhere to the base coat, and that's where you get delamination of your clear coat, haziness, and all kinds of problems with your paint. So yeah, again, here using the actual toner that is actually matched to the clear coat and is all part of one system. Sherwin Williams does manufacture FC720. That is their, I guess, economical clear coat that they sell. It's not the their more expensive stuff like the Ultra 7000 clear coats that they have in their paint line. So automotive paint lines. So again, I do use the freehand shields. I created most of these, all the shields that you see except for maybe a couple of them that I did purchase online. Most of these shields I actually made myself using a Cricut machine, and basically Photoshop and creating SVT, I believe, are the files that you're supposed to create. But yeah, there are different videos out there on YouTube explaining how to convert a PNG to your Cricut, to be able to cut in your Cricut machine. So just go ahead and look that up. Trust me, YouTube is a huge resource of information that on so many varied subjects and topics. Really, that's how I got into airbrushing, was that I stumbled across a video explaining how to reduce tube acrylics to be able to spray through an airbrush. And from that point on, it's been nearly 2 years. It's 21 months that I've been airbrushing now, and I fall in love with it more and more every day. So again, this is really fun. Here you'll notice that, you know, as I'm painting, I'll lay down a little bit of tone, and then I'll go in and erase certain details that are usually outlined by the white Sorel lines or the carbon paper lines. And by doing this, not only am I removing the white pencil marks, I'm, you know, softening some of the shadows and the details. I'm cleaning up a lot of that area, and it's just making for a better image. So if you can, possibly try to erase as much of those white stencil marks is the best description that I can give for those markings. In tattoos, we call you know, the drawing that I did, that would be considered a stencil. And the freehand masks or friskets or paper masks, those are exactly that, masks. They're now for airbrushing, a stencil for me is you know, one of those multi-layer cutouts that allow you to create the same image over and over and over again by following a series of cutout, you know, shapes. That's what I consider stencil art. But this, like I said, is you know, a freehand, I guess, because I'm not using frisket film, and I'm not using masking tape or fine line tape, just freehand shields and the eraser, and that's it. And so that's why I consider this drawing or this painting to be a freehand painting. But again, I don't know. I guess you know, art is kind of subjective. What some people consider art, what, you know, some people define as freehand. You know, some people don't consider a painting freehand unless you just grab the airbrush and start painting without drawing it out or any type of blocking out or anything. You just grab the airbrush and start painting. I have painted this way, and they've come out very well. You know, that's more of a skill, you know, or just, you know, your ability to freehand. If you know, not everybody can do that, and if you can, great, you know, good for you. If not, you know, don't worry about it. Not everybody can, and it's okay if you can't. You know, draw it out, stencil it out. Use the masks. Use the, you know, cutouts, paper cutouts. Use the frisket film. Use whatever tools or means that you need to create the image. There's no right or wrong when it comes to art. Art is, again, like I said, very subjective. What one person considers art, other people may consider garbage. So just you know, as long as you enjoy the process, you know, and ultimately I guess if you're doing this as a commission, the client enjoys the end product. It doesn't matter how it was created, whether it was done freehand or stenciled, unless it's, you know, obviously stenciled. It's obviously that, you know, that you used every single step was cut out, sprayed, and you know, you moved on to the next step. That does have a very cut out look and a very stencily look, and you don't want that in custom painting. You do want that blend between freehand and sharp and You have to learn how to create a balance and find what works and uh, what doesn't work. Basically trial and error, a lot and lot and lot of trial and error. I've been doing this, like I said, 21 months now. I've completed probably over 130 paintings in that time. And that's just the paintings. That's not drills, practice, little sketches and things that I've done. That's just the completed paintings that I have, or completed projects that I've done. So I'm still, again, learning myself. Like I said, every day, every single piece is a new learning experience. I bring with me certain skills sets from tattooing that translate very, very well to airbrushing, and also color or charcoal drawing. Again, with hard substrates and paints that you can erase. If study charcoal drawing, how to add tone and then erase away, add tone, erase away, and one thing I should note, that with this Stadler Mars eraser, that you can vary how much of the paint that you actually erase away. Like, you can, if you vary the amount of pressure that you apply to the paint, you can either pull away just a very light amount, still leaving some of the paint on the surface, or you can erase all the way down to the black and the substrate. So that's nice to be able to get that gradation or tonal variation from even the eraser itself. So here again, here you kind of see a little bit more finger movement than you normally see when I'm painting, and that's actually because I had a bit of a fault. When I pressed down on the air, it started to spray paint immediately, and rather than stop and immediately and try to fix this problem, I just used this feature and kind of worked within the parameters of how it was spraying, and and believe it or not, the less, like, if I barely pressed on the trigger to get the air going, very little paint came out, and the more I pressed and the more air that I gave it, a little bit more paint would come out. So I actually would vary the amount of pressure that I applied to the trigger and finished out that chain until I was able to render it out. Then I did go ahead and stop, pull out my needle, give it a twist, and push it back in, give it a blast through and clear out the clog, and then started going in again, and was again rocking and rolling and back to 100%. Again, here you can just see the controllability. Even a 0.35 is capable of super thin lines. You just have to practice your control, your trigger control, how much you pull back, how much you let loose. These airbrushes, like I said, honestly, unless you're free-handing in individual eyelashes, you never need a micron. You should be able to achieve most images with 0.2, 0.3, 0.35 size needle. Even a 0.5. I've done an entire painting that was done with a 0.5 what is the cheaper Iwata Neo BCN, which was a bottom feed airbrush. Sorry, the name completely slipped my mind there for a second. But no, it was a 0.5 airbrush, and I was able to complete the entire painting, including some pretty fine detail with even a 0.5. So really, it just comes down to practicing your trigger control. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Practice, practice, practice every single day, whether it's dots, lines, shading. Fill up I use two 18 by 24 pieces of newsprint. I shouldn't say two pieces. I fill up the front and the back of a single sheet of 18 by 24 newsprint with lines, dagger strokes, shading, circles, eyes, skulls, whatever. And then I flip the paper over, do the other side, and I do that every single day. Just not only to keep my skills sharp, but to try to refine my process, try to define my trigger control, see if I can start a line, stop that line, pick up the line and continue it without creating a dark spot, without blowing it out or getting wider or missing it, and just basically almost like doing drills, even though I don't really think of them as drills per se. It's just kind of my routine. And that's basically, like I said, what I do every single day. Whether I'm creating a piece of art or I'm just spraying, I'm always putting hands on the airbrush. So again, depending on the amount of dedication you put into your craft, how much interest you have in what it is you do, will determine your level of success. If look at your Facebook groups. Are you a member of airbrushing groups? Are you a member of custom painting groups? Are you a member of what are your interests? What are the things that are coming across your social media? What are you doing in your downtime? When you're browsing YouTube, are you looking at airbrushing videos, art videos? Are you looking at other artists and what they're creating, and trying to push your own levels, skill levels? This is really going to be the determining factor in your success. I personally want my name and my art to be featured in magazines like Lowrider Art Magazine, and even Lowrider Art, the Lowrider Magazine. If I could paint a vehicle that it would be featured in Lowrider Art or Lowrider Magazine, then man, that would be a dream come true for me. Again, I'm a Chicano from Denver. Grew up around lowriders and motorcycles, and that's what interests me, and what I like to do in my free time. So I like to build cars and work on stuff, and so this style of painting definitely appeals to me. I've done several of these Chicana clown paintings now. I'm getting pretty good at them. But yeah, they're always fun. Here I've gone ahead and kind of switched my attention down to the $100 bill. Trying to clean up, some of the details. Again, much of this is free-handed. I didn't put a whole lot of detail in the stencil when drawing it out. Just more or less landmarks of what goes where, and constantly referring back to my references that you can see behind me on the easel, directly behind the water bottle, that I do refer back to. I don't follow it completely, not 100%. Like I said, there's slight variations, slight deviations, no artistic license. You don't. And again, like I said, this is art. I am using the other painting as a reference, but it's not 100%. I didn't go as bright or as vibrant with her hair color. Her hair color looks more darker, more like a brunette with highlights than a blonde. So and that was an artistic choice. So this eraser here that I'm using to erase the barbed wire is the AFMAT electric eraser with the Sun Dolphin eraser insert. That is a direct buy from Japan. That is, again, I've mentioned it before in my other videos. It is a rubber and sand mix eraser, so it is more aggressive than a regular electronic eraser refill. And it will erase very, very well. I use it quite a bit in most of my paintings. So again, just try to, if you saw that I used the freehand shield for certain shapes, and then I'll go in and freehand other shapes. If you're not confident freehanding certain things, again, don't be afraid to use a mask. Don't be afraid to use a paper cutout or whatever. Just, it's ultimately the end result that matters. So again, I wish I could say, do this, go to this area, go to that area. Me, I jump around so much. I'll sit back and notice that I didn't capture this detail or I missed that detail. So I do step back, and oftentimes when I step back, it's because I'm having a clean tip dry, or I'm having to mix paint, or I just need a few minutes to sit back, straighten my back. Here on Benjamin Franklin's face, you will notice there's a little detail. We give him some of the clown makeup. And remember, when you're doing a face this small, don't try to go for major details. You're not going to achieve them. You're just going for the suggestion of a nose, the suggestion of the mouth. You're not going to get the super details, but if you can at least more or less suggest the shape of the mouth and the shape of the nose, and try to keep those details true to form, you'll come out with a fair enough approximation of your image. So again, these as you may have noticed, again, I mentioned it earlier, but now that we've toned in much more of the surrounding areas, the white of her face is not nearly as white as it used to be. It's toned down very much from like when we first started, and that's because it is more closely matched with the surrounding tonal values. Here, just doing freehand lines worked great for kind of crumpled money, looking like stacks of old $100 bills. Not using a shield for these $100 bills kind of gave them more of a natural used look or a real look. Again, trying to be as precise as possible for the details of the $100, the actual symbols that are on the money. But again, this is freehand. This is art, and I'm not trying to 100% reproduce a $100 bill on the front of this water bottle, obviously. So again, don't beat yourself up. It's just paint. If you don't like it, paint over it and start over again. It's just a little bit of time, a little bit of effort. It's not so bad. You may notice here though that as I'm shading or laying in the tone that, where there's shadow, I'm lightly dusting into that area and then just leaving the black, not adding any tone there. And yeah, as like I said, a little bit different than how you may normally paint. Here I'm actually using the Lazy Susan to help assist me create those lines at the bottom. I do apologize, I didn't realize that the camera couldn't see what I was doing there at the bottom section, and that I was a little too close, and so it's kind of hard to see what I did down there, but it's pretty much the same as the top, and just adding in the smoke and details on the side. And yeah, we're pretty much nearing the end here. I do go ahead and notice that I wasn't far enough back to show you all the details, so I will pull back here in a second, but I did step back for a second and look to see if there were any details that I was missing, anything that needed to be cleaned up. Like here, this the border on this $100 bill, this bottom one just needed to be cleaned up a little bit, and some of the kind of suggestion of letterings, and just a little bit more separation in those bills at the very bottom, and there we are. So here I did go ahead and include a short section in real time, just to give you an idea of what it looked like. And if you enjoyed this process, I want to thank you for joining me. I would ask that you press that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you have any suggestions on something you'd like to see, please leave a comment, or if you just enjoyed the video, let me know. I want to thank you all for joining me, and I hope that I was able to help you in your artistic journey. And you all have a great day. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.